And now we'd like to give you a demonstration of Zscaler's own digital experience monitoring solution called Zscaler Digital Experience, or ZDX. So Dhawal, over to you for that demonstration.
Thank you, Sanjay, and thank your panelists for the insightful conversation. Let me start without further delay and walk you through what is the Zscaler Digital Experience. So ZDX is a pillar product line in Zscaler, like you are familiar with Zscaler Internet Access and Private Access, which and grown organically and built from ground up in last 2 years on our global platform. Today, we are collecting more than 3.5 billion telemetry data points across the globe. And ZDX belongs to what Gartner calls as DEM, or Digital Experience Monitoring, as Sanjay said, which is the fastest growing market in overall availability and performance landscape, and converting some of the traditional monitoring markets, such as end user experience monitoring or network monitoring, as well as starting to extend certain controls in the area of AI ops, etc. as well. We launched ZDX earlier this year with a vision to enhance digital experience in the modern workplace. Like other pillar product lines in Zscaler, we are starting with a very focused set of use cases around end user experience monitoring for internet-based web applications, which we are already expanding to monitoring non-web applications such as UCaaS apps such as Teams and Zoom, as well as private applications that you access over ZPA or a traditional VPN. We are already working on expanding applicability of ZDX beyond the user experience use cases to a wider variety of use cases that we would be rolling out in the foreseeable future. So today, as you think about the broader solution that Zscaler addresses, one of the area is modern workplace enablement, which aligns with our broader philosophy of enabling work from anywhere initiative within the enterprise. Key goal here is to improve productivity and reduce business risk. Your employees are secure through Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange. Zscaler Internet Access makes sure that your internet traffic is protected, and ZPA ensures employees connect to private applications securely. Another key tenet of modern workplace enablement is greater user experience. If you provide great security at expense of user experiences, or as Rohit mentioned, your end users are going to be unhappy. This is why we built a massive cloud at first place, which actually can connect you to the application through the local circuit without backhauling your traffic. And the intent of building ZDX alongside was to give you a consistent view of your employees' UX through a scoring framework, which is easy to understand, which we call a ZDX score. ZDX score itself is computed between a value of 0 to 100. Closer the score is to 100, better it is. When score is bad, you can look at the underlying metrics to determine what is causing the bad score. Score always provides a real-time indication of systematic problems or a localized problem, which then could be diagnosed further using the live troubleshooting capabilities in the product. And score itself is computed based on 3 variables that would impact user experience: application, network, and endpoint. From an application perspective, it is important to do an end-to-end monitoring of app performance, looking at behavior of the application. Ability to generate alerts, which are triggered when certain thresholds are triggered. For example, page fetch time is a good indicator of performance of web applications. So if page fetch time has increased 2x for certain application, it would definitely impact end user experience. Also look at the network from every single user's device, not from certain vantage point in a data center or in provider's network. Many problems happen on the first mile, and especially in today's work from home world, we have seen a lot of problems happening due to the local Wi-Fi issues or latency on the corporate LAN, or when traffic is backhauled to that corporate LAN, or on the first mile from users' home towards on the ISP circuit as well. And finally, you need to make sure that endpoint is also monitored. These are devices that people are using for doing their day-to-day work. If there is an operating system upgrade or an AV upgrade, would that impact the device performance? So when you bring these views together from endpoint, network, and application, as you can see on the dashboard on the left here, you can see a global view of all your employees across the world for all your key applications you care for, whether these are internal applications or external applications. You can view ZDX score for users or applications or location, or for your entire organization level as well. So when scores are not looking good, like you can see when I took this screenshot from our corporate tenant, the Salesforce was going through a performance issue and the scores had dipped during that time window. It was very easy for me to click any of the dots on that global map and actually then see what is causing that bad score. And then I was able to run live diagnostics from ZDX as well. We have talked a lot about the concept of scoring. We took a different approach from traditional monitoring tools, which are very threshold driven. We use a concept of baselining, which essentially means we baseline every single user's performance for the applications that they're using, and then benchmark it to compute a score for them. So the score is contextual to who you are and where you are coming from. And when score goes bad, you can drill and see the underlying metrics. This slide provides you with a view of some of the metrics that we collect from a network, application, and endpoint perspective. Remember, this is not exhaustive list, but key attributes that could impact experience. For example, on application side, page fetch time is a good indicator of overall health of a web application. We use it for scoring web-based application along with the availability metrics, but as we start supporting UCaaS applications like Microsoft Teams and Zoom, you care more for voice and video quality. So MOS score is used for computing the ZDX score for those applications. Likewise, on the network front, we look at every single hop on the data path. So we can show you AS number, ISP information, IP addressing, and routing information from a user all the way to the destination, which can tell you if there is suboptimal routing in the play. If you're going through Zscaler for internet security, we'll also show you our own cloud and infrastructure, and if our infrastructure is causing any undue impact on the user experience. So next question that typically comes from a lot of customers that we tell about, you're going to get visibility from every single device, every single user, covering all the aspects that could impact end user experience. The question is, how do I deploy it? Actually, it is the simplest product to deploy if you are already a Zscaler customer and you have deployed our client connector. Beyond that, all it takes is to enable a few monitoring profiles for key application for which we have provided pre-built templates, like for Office 365 application, and I'll show it to you during the demo. And the moment you enable these monitoring probes, our client on user's computer would start sending these probes to the application with the full user context, as our agent is always authenticated and it has the location context of the user. One of the major advantages of deploying ZDX and not yet another monitoring tool is that it literally has zero impact to the end users. It gets enabled behind the scene. It starts monitoring the end user experience, and users don't need to install an agent or re-authenticate with the service. And agent itself is the same agent, and we have just dropped in a library to do this monitoring on from every single user's device with less than 1% impact on the device. You can choose to deploy it for your entire user fleet or do it group by group from your Active Directory using the config knob in our portal. So end users client connector will start showing digital experience enable at the moment you have enabled it from the portal, and the portal from an administrative perspective will start populating with data within a couple of hours. So at this point, let me switch to the system and walk you through a demo, and then we'll come back to summarize the key benefits and differentiation of our ZDX. So I'm going to log into our corporate tenant and walk you through a couple of scenarios from a ZDX perspective. So we have deployed ZDX for all our employees across the globe, and I'm one of the administrators. So I usually come here along with our network operations team or cloud operations teams to look at health of key applications that we are monitoring from our employees' perspective. So here at the carousel at the top, you can see all the applications that we are monitoring. For example, you see Jira's internal server hosted in a couple of our data centers across the globe, and there is an ongoing maintenance with this service right now. So most of employees in North America are impacted due to this. And our IT team has reached out to employees, and team is aware that there's an issue going on. But more interesting scenarios happen when applications which are typically across the globe have a good experience score, and certain users are having bad experience. Let's take an example of Microsoft Teams here, for example. If I go to the global dashboard and see within the last 24 hours, Teams experience score, basically I can see mostly it's green dots, like the green dots here signify various locations across the globe from where my users are coming. For example, we have a big office in India where about 1,000 users are online at this time, and I can see their experience score for our for Microsoft Teams is pretty good. I can see the global baseline of our ZDX score for Microsoft Teams and average page fetch time. So it looks pretty healthy at this point. But I was talking to one of our customer success person yesterday, and he was complaining about team slowness as he was on a customer call and he was not able to connect and was having a lot of issues connecting to the team from his home network. So what you can do from ZDX Global Console is you can draw a fence here and you can drill down into a specific location. Like here, I know that the user, in this case, Clint, is based in Washington State. So I can click here and I can drill into specific geo. So I can see if Clint is coming from Washington, I have about 13 users coming from there. Experience looks pretty okay. It's not a geo-specific or a global issue at this point of time. I can also search for a specific user. For example, if I search for myself here, I can directly go to my own user experience from the dashboard itself. But in this case, we are trying to troubleshoot a problem for a specific user. I started with the global view. I'm now drilling into this specific geo where this user is located. There are about 13 users of Zscaler who are based in Washington State. So I'm going to see how many of them actually are having a problem with Teams. So I can quickly see the user distribution here, that about of 13 people, there are about 2 users who are having bad score, and Clint is one of them. So his ZDX score for Microsoft Teams is actually pretty bad. So now I can click on Clint and see all the details regarding his user experience or digital experience at this point. Clint currently has 2 devices. One of his device actually is where he's using for work. I can see more details on that device, like what kind of hardware he's using, what network he's connected to, and what software he's running on the device. I can see his device fingerprint as well. Now, for Microsoft Teams specifically, and I can add other applications for Clint and see the performance of those applications. But since we are looking at Microsoft Teams here, I do see that his score is pretty bad. Now, and this is consistently bad. He was working till 5 p.m. Then his machine has been up again after a break. One thing which I notice here is that underlying metrics, as I mentioned, for web applications. Right now, for Teams, I'm going to the front door of the application. I do see various spikes going up to 8,000 milliseconds, which essentially says it takes 80 seconds in certain instances for things to be loaded. Now, generally speaking, if you see the flat line, it is about 1,000 milliseconds is an average for Clint, which is fairly high for the geo from where he's coming from. I looked at the baseline for Washington State-based users to Office 365. It's actually less than 300 milliseconds. So definitely there is something which is causing this spike in the page fetch time for this user. And the server response time is also fairly high, though his DNS is pretty good, less than 2 milliseconds, and an app is available. I also look at the network path going from his device all the way to the destination, which is less than 50 milliseconds on average, which is what Microsoft recommends as well. There have been certain spikes in his on the network latency side, but in general, his network latency is pretty low. And then I can click here and actually see hop by hop analysis of every single hop on the data path, where if there was any packet loss in latency, and see full network path trace as well. And then I can look at that device health. Now, one interesting thing which you'll see is he has certain spikes here in the latency, and his home Wi-Fi signal strength has dropped during this window here. So his network latency went high when there was a spike in when his Wi-Fi signal strength dropped, which would have translated to even bad user experience when he was having this issue during this time window. I can also look at his device events, for example, if there were any like his network interface utilization. But I can also look for things, for example, if his device was going through any like systematic issues. For example, here I see when his device woke up, what Wi-Fi he was connected to, and which host he was able to connect. So in a single pane, I'm able to look at, from a user perspective, application metrics, network metrics, and endpoint metrics. And if users are not happy, I can actually start a live troubleshooting session, which we call deep tracing here. And also we have a global alerting framework through which I can see how many of my users are impacted when certain events happen. For example, I see that about 13 users are running into latency issues with Zoom right now, and these 13 users are right now pretty much distributed across 13 locations. So it's not a systematic problem. So these might be very localized issue in the user environment. And output of these alerts could be sent via a webhook to a ITSM tool like ServiceNow, or email to your service desk as well. So this is a quick demo. I'll flip back to the presentation and summarize our the demo today. So in order to wrap up the session, ZDX key differentiation includes that it is built on the same global, highly scalable Zscaler SASE platform with data ingested from every single user, normalized on the endpoint, and then sent to an ingestion and analytics engine that is built with modern big data-based technology. You cannot do monitoring of end user experience without instrumenting monitoring from their device, which must be tied to the identity and location information. Context-driven monitoring is something that is our unique value proposition from a ZDX perspective, and you can set it up, as I explained, without much sweat if you are an existing customer. In today's world, monitoring stats are as important to network team as they are to security and to workspace team and to network infrastructure team. Zscaler brings this single pane of glass with its converged security and monitoring stack. And finally, we have a unified agent and would not ask your users to install a plugin, a browser plugin, or yet another agent or a virtual machine. And we can provide you ability to see data path as actual users traffic goes through, not from a dummy VM running in a data center. So thank you, and I will pass it back to Kavita to wrap up the session.
Thank you, Dhawal. Many thanks to Rohit and Howard for taking the time to share your real-world experiences today, and to Sanjeet for moderating the session so well this afternoon. I wanted to thank all of you for attending today's session. If you have missed any part of the episode or any of the episodes in this series and would like to rewatch them, you can visit cxosummit.zscaler.com. And we would love to continue the conversation with you by inviting you to join your IT leadership peers in a private Zscaler CXO community on LinkedIn, where you can engage with like-minded innovators and learn secure digital transformation best practices. Our team will be sharing that information with you in an email communication and an invitation. You can also visit the new CXO Revolutionaries website for practical and actionable insights from working and practitioner experts today. Until our next session, from all of us here at Zscaler, do take care, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you at our Global CXO Summit on October 20th that will be focused on ransomware. Goodbye, everyone.